This is part of Renworth Heath, or Rainworth Heath, depending on your upbringing. It's a Nottinghamshire Wildlife Trust site, and in my opinion is one of the most unique areas of lowland heath that we have in Nottinghamshire. It's very different to everywhere else, at least that I've seen. I'm here again on the search for an elusive quarry, a species which has eluded me for far too many years now. It's a species which has declined in Nottinghamshire, it appears, over the last 20, 30, 40 years, and it's the hieroglyphic ladybird. This morning started off extremely promisingly. A clear blue sky in which the sun rose, and over the ensuing hours the sun increased its warmth, but also over those ensuing hours so the cloud built up, and now, as you can see, the majority of the sky is covered by this cumulus cloud, and the cloud is expected to build as we go throughout the afternoon and evening, and tomorrow morning is pretty much a washout. So I thought, as I was passing Renworth Heath here, I would come and have a look for an old quarry of mine, sort of one of those extremely elusive species, and it's a species that I've looked for and documented I think twice on this channel, and that's the hieroglyphic ladybird. I was hoping that a pleasant bit of sunshine would encourage insect activity, and indeed it has. Walk past any sort of tussocky grass field and you'll invariably get queen bumblebees that have come out of those tussocks and are spending an hour or so warming up. And filled with promise, I thought I'd come and have another look again, visually searching for hieroglyphic ladybird. Maybe one is sat somewhere near the top of one of these clumps of Kaluna and Erica Heath that we have here on Renworth Heath. And as I sit here now, that sun is pleasantly warm, but it's only going to be short-lived. So it's a wander around here, an aimless, wheezy wander, trying to find the elusive hieroglyphic ladybird again. Only seen it on one occasion, and we found two, Dillis and myself, a number of years ago, and it was the black form that we found. I've always wanted to photograph the red form with the hieroglyphic markings on it. That would be the ideal outcome to this video. Failing that, it'll be a walk round and looking at heather, patches of heather, and finding very little. This, of course, isn't a hieroglyphic ladybird, but it gives me hope. This is the 7-spot ladybird. Quite large spots actually on this one, although 7-spot ladybird shows very little in the way of variation. Because this one is sat near the top of this particular stand of heather, I'm hopeful that maybe hieroglyphic ladybird, or possibly heather ladybird, is also doing the same. But there are silver birches here, and both species can apparently get onto the trunks of trees, and I've certainly found heather ladybird a number of times on the trunks of trees in heathland. But in this video we may well end up looking at a number of these. And just above the 7-spot ladybird we just looked at was this Agalanetia redii, which is a uncommon orb weaver in Nottinghamshire, although evidence and sightings from the last couple of years indicate that this species is indeed spreading. Very well camouflaged, and this is adult. It's no more than about 8 mil from end of abdomen to front of the head, but look at that for camouflage. Fabulous, isn't it? This is actually the first one I've had on Rennet Heath, although I believe, if I remember right, Nick and Samantha Brownlee found it here at the back end of 2023. And this one is at the top of a stand of heather in the middle of this grassy area. Well, I'm not equipped to beat the hell out of the heather. It's just visual searching only today. And I've just found pine ladybird, rather large female pine ladybird, which was also at the top of the heather. So further indication that we could be lucky today, but it is doubtful. I've done this numerous times, at least twice a year, for getting on towards 10 years now, I should imagine. It's a long time since I saw hieroglyphic ladybird here. I would have just liked it to have been a little bit warmer and make the insects just a bit more active, but just slow, steady visual searching may well pay dividends. Well, I'm finding more Agalanetia redii, and as I sit here now filming this one, I can see another one in a similar silk cup to this one, of the normal sort of grey and blackish form, but also what looks to be 2 or 3 other webs. This spider's made great strides. It wasn't here a few years ago. Nick and Samantha Brownlee found it here, new to this site, in 2023, and this is the 4th one that I found here today. Normally it's often found low down, building its webs on gorse, but these here at Rennet Heath are all on the heather, and all sat in these small cups of silk. These aren't large spiders. These are all, from what I can see, most are fully grown, and so they're not large at all. And for some reason these cups are built almost in like the forks at the end of these sprigs of heather. But it's a very attractive spider. I'll show you some of the other ones. Here's another one, again in that silken cup. This one's not as obvious to camera, at least. And this is the normal sort of colour form of Agalanetia redii. Here's another example, slightly different coloration or markings, but again sat in its beautifully crafted silken cup. This kind of cup or retreat is also made by the much larger Araneus quadratus, but in quadratus the females create an upside down silken cup, and that cup then offers the spider protection from the worst of the weather. These are completely exposed and open. Well, covered half of Rennet Heath, and that's not a part one where I've been on, where I've found hieroglyphic ladybird before. This bit is, but not this bit that you can see. Just further in the distance behind the electricity poles there is a sort of boggy area, and that's where I found hieroglyphic ladybirds, Dillis and I, all those years ago. They were found by beating the rather straggling older stands of heather. Today I'm not doing any beating, just come here off the cuff as I was passing Rennet Heath, and so visual searching again of these clumps. If I don't find hieroglyphic ladybird, it looks as though I'm going to find more of Agalanetia redii, that beautifully marked small orb weaver. May seem like hard work. It isn't really, but these things aren't as impossible to find by visual searching. I'm hoping that maybe I'll glimpse that orangey red of the typical hieroglyphic ladybird, but even black ladybirds stand out when at rest on heather, and that's what you're looking for, just that hint of colour or that familiar beetle shape tucked in, but no sign as yet. I'm now in the area where Dylan and I found hieroglyphic ladybird before. The heather here, as you can probably make out in the background, is very old and very straggly, and this is the type of stand of heather or condition of heather which hieroglyphic ladybirds are supposed to prefer. So it's ideal habitat here. And it's a case now of just wandering through the damp area, trying not to get my feet soaking wet, and see if we can turn anything up other than another 7-spot ladybird. But I've not found any of the smaller ladybirds apart from pine ladybird, so we'll see if we can turn anything up. Well, the clouds building up, rain by evening no doubt by the looks of it, and this is the habitat that I've been going through latterly, and no joy. Hieroglyphic ladybird once again eludes me, but I'm convinced that it is still here, and that it is here in small numbers. There's only a handful of known sites in Nottinghamshire, and it's not been recorded at any of them other than here since I think it was the 1990s. But I will try again. I don't think today it's warm enough, and there's so much habitat here of which they can overwinter in. There's so many clumps of grasses. This particular area is all clumps of dry grass. It's perfect for thousands of invertebrates to overwinter in. And although there's lots of 7-spot ladybirds high up on this rather straggly heather behind me, there's no accompanying hieroglyphic ladybirds. No small ladybirds apart from the one pine ladybird that I found earlier on. There's no sign of heather ladybird, and one ladybird which seems to have declined a little bit in recent years, at least on my observations or lack of them, is Adonis's ladybird, and that's a species with a pretty much worldwide distribution, I gather, and I know some people have recorded it in Australia. It'd be nice actually to find one of those, but hieroglyphic ladybird remains that elusive beastie for me.